Welcome to the Real Life Groups Leadership Podcast, a conversation about creating small groups where people grow in spiritual maturity in relationship. We're focused on you, the small group leader, giving tips and tools to help you lead effectively. Hey, I want to welcome you back to the Real Life Groups Leadership Podcast. We're just super excited to have you on the show. My name is Chris Short, and I want to welcome you, group leaders. Thank you for all that you do. And today is a really special episode, even though I think every episode is special. But my wife is going to help me host this episode, and she's way more welcoming than me. Do you want to welcome people today?
Yeah, welcome. I'm excited. It's going to be a great conversation.
And what's our conversation about?
We are talking about mentoring.
Mentoring men and women. Awesome.
Yep.
And we actually have some really great guests, some of our favorite people, Randy and Debbi McEnespy. And just kind of for context, so you know who they are, Randy is one of our elders, has been an elder for years. How many years? 10?
I don't know.
Forever. Okay.
Forever.
Forever. Cool. And Debbi actually was on our staff on our women's team, and she actually stepped back, and now she volunteers pretty much doing the same thing. And so,
For
you know,
free.
for free.
For free,
Yeah,
yeah.
for free.
Free volunteer.
And you know what's kind of cool is you guys are both officially now retired,
Yep.
right? So that's a changing season. So tell us kind of, as we get started, what does that season look like? What's retired?
What does retired look like for you?
For me,
It looks like
looks
you're retired.
like sleeping in the morning,
Oh,
and
man.
getting up when I want, and doing kind of what I want. I do a lot of fishing,
Love it.
and I do a lot of
Mm.
stuff. I enjoy creative things, and so
Yeah.
I make
Love it.
fishing lures, and I draw pictures,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Help my
and,
wife,
and invest into people.
Yeah.
and
so
I
good.
invest into people.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, I do. We'll talk about that.
Yep.
How about you, Debbi?
So for me, really, the only thing that's changed is I don't have to get up and do a couple hours of book work in
Yeah.
the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, my life has not changed
Yeah.
much.
Yep.
It's a little bit slower. Little
Totally.
There
bit
you
slower.
go.
I love it. That's
Just
like,
a
it's a
little
good
bit.
part of
Little bit more
retirement.
vacations, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. There
And
you go.
More vacation.
I love that you choose what you want to do now.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, again, for us is really cool to be able to sit with you guys is you guys have been, you know, for us, some of the people that we'll
Yeah.
process things with, safe people to, you know, learn from. And when we think about the word mentoring men and women, that's when we started thinking about this podcast, you guys came right to our mind because you've impacted so many people.
Yeah.
And when we think about this word mentoring, just for context, you know, it's a word we don't use very often in kind of church leadership. We talk about discipleship a lot.
Right.
So I want to kind of start with just bridging the gap. Maybe you guys could fill that in a little bit. When we say mentoring men and women, how is that different than discipleship? Are they the same? Are they different? Thoughts on that?
I'm going to let you do that.
So I've thought about that a little bit, and I think that, you know, mentoring could cover, you know, any topic.
Yeah.
An athletic coach would be
Yeah.
a mentor towards his players, right? The purpose there is to make them a better player.
Yep.
A teacher is a mentor to their students. They're making them better students. In the context of real life, when we talk about mentorship, we really are talking about discipleship.
Yeah.
With discipleship, I think it requires mentorship as part of the process,
Yeah.
but Jesus is at the center.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
is the
Exactly.
goal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love that.
So I would say in our context, you know, and even for me personally, when I think of the word mentor, I'm thinking of it in the context of real life ministries and
Yep.
my role at the church. And I mentor a lot of different
Yep.
people
Yeah.
with the purpose of leading them closer to Jesus and helping them
That's right.
through
Love
life.
I
that.
think
Yeah.
that's the main difference. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Because you
good.
can be a mentor in lots of different ways. Like you
Right.
said, you have, you know, the work environment, you have the sports environment, but we're
Yeah.
specifically going, how do we leverage what's best of mentorship
Right.
in discipleship?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Yep.
good.
Yeah.
So I just thinking what has mentorship meant to you guys? Like,
Yeah.
why is it important? How has it impacted your life being mentored?
Yeah. Let me go
Yeah.
for me, it was everything. Like,
Yeah.
I had,
Hmm.
I was really blessed that I had a lady come beside me probably 25 years ago.
Wow.
And I was, our marriage was we were super struggling. It was broken and I was broken. He was, we were a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were a mess. And I just had a lady, Sherry Backman, and she just walked with me for years and years and years, you guys. It was like in the trenches when I was like, I want a divorce. I want out.
Yeah.
I want, you know, and she would just keep bringing me back to the word and do studies with me
Yeah.
and just
Wow.
really modeling Jesus to me
Mhm.
and showing me how we're supposed to live our life.
Yeah.
And got to the point that I could start praying for my
Yeah.
husband and praying for Randy. And then that's when kind of I was
Yeah.
able to change,
Yeah.
which enabled a safe place for him to change.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, I love that.
and then God, and then there
And
was God.
specifically, you kind of called out this was a one-on-one,
Yep.
deeper
Mhm.
time than a small group. So this was kind of separate from a small group environment. Were you guys in a small group together?
We were.
Okay.
It kind of in and out. Like we were in home groups together. We were in women's
Yeah.
groups together.
Great.
But then we always had like our one-on-one,
Yep.
Yep.
time that we
Mhm.
would just do a study together or just talk about life together.
Yeah.
Right.
When I look back on that time from my perspective, I didn't know Sherry very well, but I knew that she was intentionally investing in my wife.
Yeah.
And I saw the fruit coming from that was a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
And even though I really wasn't walking with the Lord at the time, and I really didn't know what it looked like to do that, I knew that Debbi was growing and changing, and Sherry was helping her dramatically
Yeah,
and doing
that's
it on
cool.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe break the connection down a little bit between, what we would see for most of our people who are leading small groups, and they're coming into it. And I'll say this: I can gravitate towards show up for a group
Right.
for an hour and a half, lead a discussion, and it's like, oh, that was great. I did discipleship. You're talking about something that's pretty different that we're striving for, and we want to seek for our leaders. So help make the connection between what you experience and what we see is really the great, ramifications of a discipleship that goes beyond a small group alone.
Yeah.
Well, I think like a small group is a good starting place.
Yes. Yeah.
Is how I look at it.
Yep.
It's where you get to hear people and hear them processed. And I think that's just a place to start. And then from there, my intention is always to pick, one or two so we can go deeper with
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And that's that one-on-one.
Mhm.
Maybe it's 1-on-3, maybe it's 3 of it or what,
Yep.
however, doesn't have to look just one-on-one.
Yeah.
But yeah. And to take it deeper
Yeah.
and to really, because, small groups are great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I won't go as deep in a small group than I would if I was just sitting with Sara.
And probably
Yep,
shouldn't,
I
right?
agree,
Right.
yeah.
There's
Or
things
so-
that aren't
That's so good.
the right
Right.
timing to do
Right.
that.
And there's not appropriate mixed gender stuff, and
Yep.
yet all
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think additionally in a life group situation, you don't really want to challenge someone in a
Yeah.
difficult topic, in
Yeah.
front of
Right.
everyone.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot more
Yep.
creatively when you're
Mhm.
one-on-one.
Yep.
Right.
So I agree with Debbi. I think that the life group
Mhm.
scenario is perfect for establishing
Yeah.
relationship
Yeah.
Yeah.
and getting people to begin to
Yep.
dig into God's word.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
really want to mentor someone and
Yeah.
help them, on a journey towards Christ, I think that has to be more of a one-on-one
Yep.
type
I
situation.
love what you said there. The creative challenging
Yeah.
someone,
Yeah.
one-on-one.
Yeah.
Because I've been the fruit of that at times. In my life, you've been.
Mhm.
I want to challenge you on something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And certainly in a larger group
Yeah.
would have been a different conversation.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
There's a
so
safety
true.
and like you said, it can sometimes be the catalyst from a small group where
Yeah.
you can go deeper with a few
Mhm.
people.
Yep.
Yep.
And so we have this this next level of connection.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, Randy, we were talking a little bit earlier. You talked about the lack of mentorship and how that affected your life. What do you mean by that? The lack of mentorship?
Well, I would say this.
Hmm.
I had a father and a stepfather, neither
Mhm.
one of which were very effective fathers.
Yeah.
And they weren't very supportive. They weren't very helpful. And I had a lot of struggles early on in my life. But I had a grandfather that was amazing.
Mm.
And my grandfather was able to mentor me
Mhm.
in, just matters of the life,
Yep.
of life.
Wow.
And he had also experienced life with a very difficult father.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he understood me,
Yeah.
and he'd been down that pathway before, and he was able to guide me through it.
Mm-hmm.
He died when I was 19 years old.
Mm.
Maybe I was 20.
Yeah.
And, at that time I was just starting to date Debbi. And, we had a pretty serious relationship, and we got married shortly after. But I didn't have that mentor. I didn't have that guide for the first,
Wow.
I don't know, 10 years or more of our
Wow.
marriage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was a long time.
And my grandpa had taught me a little bit about what it looked like to be a man, but not what it looked like to be a husband,
Yeah.
and not what it looked like to be a father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I missed that.
Wow.
And not
And-
even a godly.
Not even a godly man. Yeah,
Right.
he wasn't a
Yeah.
Christian.
Yeah.
He was a
Okay.
good man, but he
Yeah.
wasn't a Christian. And so, our first 10 or 15 years of marriage were really, really difficult. And, fatherhood was something that was foreign to me because I didn't have a good model
Yeah.
of a father.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it looked like to be
Yeah.
a good dad.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And I just can't help think the number of people with a story similar to yours
Yeah.
that are in our
Mhm.
church and our community that
Yeah.
don't have that.
Yeah.
Which I think is even why this is an important conversation. When someone signs up for a small group, a lot of times we don't even know their motives, but usually it's, I need to do something different. I
Yeah.
need some friends. I need to put people
Yeah.
around me. And usually below that story is a lot of background. It's,
That's so true.
this is my stuff with my parents or my
Yep.
upbringing.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm struggling with in my marriage.
Yeah.
That sometimes doesn't come out for a little while.
Mhm.
Right.
So I want to kind of shift gears and talk a little bit about, so you're a small group leader, or you're kind of, helping in the women's discipleship
Yep.
of the
Yep.
group.
Yep. Yeah.
We're supporting a group. How would some of the first steps look to identify someone? What would it look like to kind of open that door to go? You mentioned, it might not be, the whole group might be just a few, it might be 3, maybe 1.
Yep.
What would be the first
Yeah.
steps and what would that look like to
Yep.
go deeper?
Like, are you asking like how do I
how do you-
find
Yeah,
that
how do I
person?
find
Yeah.
that
How would you
person?
find them? What would you do?
Well, first I pray,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, I ask the Holy Spirit
Mhm.
who's ready,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of good people are sitting in groups and they're
Wow.
good
Mhm.
people,
Yeah.
but they just might not be ready, and
Yeah.
that's okay, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
That's wise.
So
yeah.
I always look at the FAITH acronym. This
Yeah.
is something,
Yeah.
someone who's faithful, intentional, available, intentional, teachable, and humble.
That's great.
Yeah.
Like, if they have that, I look that
Mhm.
for volunteering, but I also like
Yep.
like if I'm going to pour into someone,
Yes.
because they may have, but they're not. If they may have everything, but they're not available, then
Yep.
I can't meet with them,
Yeah,
and
that's
Yeah.
it doesn't work,
pointless. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I really I think as when you're sitting in a small group, I don't know, you can kind of tell
Yeah.
like
I
who's
agree.
ready,
Yep.
like who wants more, who's having that deeper conversation with you during dessert time or coffee or
Mhm.
when they first come in.
Yep.
Yeah. Who's texting you during the week.
Yep.
So praying, sensing for, and looking
Yeah.
for those opportunities.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's good.
Yeah.
How about what does that look like? Let's say someone says, yeah, I'd love to talk more. Can we go to coffee? What are some things you're opening up? What are you looking for?
Well, initially, I want to get to know who they are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
Let's hear their story.
Yep.
What's their story? What's their background?
Yep.
What's their journey to God look like?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
they at in that process?
Yeah.
And are they in a place in their life where, number one, they want to be mentored,
Right.
they want help. If they do, then can I help them?
Yeah.
And I'll try to apply a little bit of wisdom to that.
Mm.
It's great.
Am I in a position where I have something to offer them?
Yeah.
It's good.
And we've walked some pretty hard paths
Yep.
and kind of come out the other side of it with some help and through
Mhm.
Jesus. And so we've been down some of these same pathways that a lot of people are struggling
Mhm.
with.
Absolutely.
So sometimes we really can help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if that's a scenario, and I'm just
Yeah.
a little bit careful about, are they ready to be invested in?
Yep.
Do I have adequate time? And is it going to be effective?
Oh, that's
And
good.
if all those things are covered, then I'm going to spend time with them. I'm going to make it a priority to spend time with them.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
good. Well, and I think too, because we have leaders that are all kinds of different ages. Like, do you have to be a certain age to be mentoring or
That's a great
pouring into somebody? Or what is that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I think
No.
you have to have been down a pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe wiser. right?
Yeah, yeah.
A little bit
There has
wiser.
to be a wisdom piece there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
It wouldn't do any good for, a raging alcoholic to try to
Yeah.
mentor someone
Mhm.
with a problem with drinking or
That hasn't
you know,
maybe
drugs.
conquered it yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's got to be some experience in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important to go, man,
Yeah.
we can all offer different things to different people.
Yeah.
And even as a small group leader, I was thinking about, I don't have to be the person for every person in
Oh,
my
that's
small
good.
group.
Absolutely not.
Yep. Yep.
If
Yeah.
you are someone that's in a small group right now that's not the leader,
Yeah.
that does not let you off the hook from not mentoring.
I love that.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes to what I was thinking about. Again, we're we are not a small group church, which
Right.
sounds controversial. We're a discipleship
Yeah.
focused small group.
Right.
Yeah.
Church, our church is helping someone grow as a disciple in their spiritual maturity. We do it in relationship. And, we in our international discipleship team, they use a great analogy I think is really fitting for this. There's times when you travel relationally in a train.
Yeah.
There's times when you travel in a bus. There's times when you travel in a car.
Right.
And to know, hey,
Yeah.
our small group operates as this mid-size environment, but really, we see discipleship take place, sometimes in the deepest chasm,
In the
small-
car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in that car,
Yeah.
in this deep, a
motor-
few
yeah.
people, motorcycle,
Yeah.
yeah.
Motorcycle, yeah.
yeah, on a walk. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Fishing boat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a fishing boat.
I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've had a lot
yeah.
of discipleship in the fishing boat.
Yeah, you've got a captive audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, captive. They
stuck
can't
there.
go anywhere. They'll drown them. Okay.
I would die.
Another thing, I don't
Yeah.
know, I just want to say, like what I was saying about if you're sitting in a group and you're not the leader
Yes.
Yeah.
or not the women's breakout leader, then it doesn't let you off the hook. Because let me tell you guys, there is so many, especially young
Yes.
mamas
Yep.
out there
Mhm.
who want mentorship
Yes.
and they want to be poured
Yeah.
into and they
Yeah.
want to be invested into.
I think
Absolutely.
that goes
Take
for
a
young men
risk.
too.
Oh, I
Absolutely.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're looking for it. It's like, hungry
They're
for it.
scared to ask.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is perfect. Tell a story, Sarah.
Come on,
Yeah, I
Sarah.
was gonna tell a story because I just feel it's almost embarrassing. But so this season in our lives, man, it was so many years ago. It's hard for me to remember. But I had someone investing in me, mentoring me, and they had moved away, and she still was like investing in
Yeah.
me. She still loves me, but I was looking for a mentor. Like I wanted that, and I had loved what
And we
I had
had
before.
little kids.
I had 4 little kids, and
Yep.
and I remember I was gonna be bold. Like I was not gonna like not ask somebody. Like I knew what I needed, but I knew that I needed a strong woman. I'm not an easy person all the time, and I knew I needed somebody who could handle some of the drama that I knew I was gonna bring. And so I remember I was at a women's conference, or I don't even know what event it was, but it was a women's event, and I was like, Lord, just point out a woman. And I'm not joking. Debbi walked past me. Now, here's what I knew about Debbi. She was on staff. So I assumed she was really busy. She was married to an elder. And I thought there is no way, Lord, you have to be wrong about this. But it was just in my heart that the Lord was like, this is going to be your person. And so I spent this entire conference wandering around Debbi. Randy, do you know this story at all?
I didn't know this
Oh my
story.
God. And so she
Stalking, we call it.
basically
She's
stalking.
stalking.
And Debbi would pass me, and I'd go, and then I'd put my hand back down, and she'd do me again. I'd go, I'd go to say my name, and I just couldn't, and I lost all the courage. And I literally, it's sad. I left this women's event with no mentor and not even a friend. I couldn't even introduce myself. And literally, and I went home and I prayed. I told Chris, I was like, I failed. I don't even know if I could do it. And I went home and I just prayed and I prayed. And Debbi's name continued to come to me. And about 2 months later, Debbi called me on the phone and asked me to volunteer.
Yep.
And I couldn't, go because Chris was taking me to Disneyland. And as soon as I said that, Debbi
We're
goes,
like,
I love Disneyland.
too. And that was an
So good.
instant connection.
It was instant connection. And then after that,
Yeah.
Debbi has, we built a relationship. She has poured into my life. So incredible. I'll try not to cry. But then even developed a relationship between the 4 of us. And I remember even when I came on staff and we were going to start working together, you were our first people to talk to because you guys had spent so many years owning a business together. And you guys still check in with us. How are we doing? Not just ministry-wise or leading a group, but how are you guys doing as a family?
Really good.
And that's important. And so I would encourage the younger women, even though I'm getting older, but be bold and ask, especially as leaders. I think sometimes you're leading the group.
Yeah.
And so it's who's mentoring me? Ask. Just ask somebody. And even if it's a no, that's okay. Ask somebody else.
Yeah.
Because no one feels offended by being asked to be mentored. It's like, oh man, maybe I can't, but maybe I can't right now in the season. But just being asked to mentor someone just is a privilege. It's an honor to be.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And same thing, I think true. We sometimes look at the other way to go, it's too prideful to say, hey, I want to disciple, I want to mentor someone else. But people are dying for it. We talked about that. They're looking for it. We all need that kind of depth of relationship.
Yeah,
and not every person fits every person. That's not what we're saying. Meaning, it's like, hey, there might be different people in a small group who don't connect at a deeper level.
Yeah.
But there is someone for everyone. Everyone has someone that they need. And, I was just going to read a scripture, and then I want to hear some last thoughts. I was thinking of a scripture that really unpacks this is, Paul's investment in Timothy.
Yeah.
And 2 Timothy 2:2, where Paul says this to him. He says, the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach to others. This 3 generations just in one verse is this model we have. It's discipleship.
It's discipleship.
It's played out.
Yeah.
So just as we kind of wrap up for time, any last thoughts or kind of next steps we would point to for, someone that's hearing this topic and maybe they've been kind of like I mentioned, I can get stuck in just coming in and leading a small group.
Yeah.
What would some first steps be? What would some counsel you'd give?
Oh, I say first and foremost, if you're a life group leader, take an honest look at your group and ask yourself, where do you see God working?
Yeah.
Is there someone in particular that you believe God is really working on their heart? Is that door open? And, sometimes you have to work a little bit to force the door open. That's okay.
Yep.
That's okay.
Keep at it. Yep.
Keep at it.
Yep.
And, I can speak from experience. The reason that I'm passionate about mentoring people, the reason I'm passionate about discipleship is that it has absolutely changed my family dynamic completely.
Yep. It's great.
And,
It's changed our whole trajectory in life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our
And
whole
our
family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
It
you add
has.
one voice
Yep.
that you didn't have before, that idea that counsel can change. Just 1 degree can change you miles. And I think that what
That's
we're saying
right.
is exactly that pathway. Any last thoughts from you?
Well, I was just thinking with discipleship, I remember in mentoring a couple of years ago, she's 14 at the time, but she was 12 at the time. And she comes to me one day and she goes, Mom, I just realized something. And I was like, what, babe? She goes, it's almost like you're mentoring me. And I was like, well, I'm your mom.
Yeah. I hope so.
And she goes, no. She goes, at this time, she goes, no, you don't understand. Like right now you're mentoring Riley, which is a woman that I was mentoring. And Riley is mentoring Maddie, which is a high schooler that she was mentoring. And at that time, Maddie mentors Ryan.
Wow.
And she was like, Mom, look at
Look
look
at the
this-
line.
The line.
Yeah.
And I love what you said. It's like we're
great.
changing legacies even.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
Love
I
that.
just think it's so powerful that just took everyone being faithful to do their part to either be discipled,
That's great.
and to be a disciple maker.
Right.
that.
So
And you don't have to have it all figured out.
I love that.
And you don't have to have all the answers.
That is perfect. I think that's a good reminder because we can feel like that often. We can feel like we have to know all the sweet answers, the perfect steps to take, and that's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm confident that this has been helpful to you listening because it's helpful for us just sitting here. A couple reminders as we're getting ready to close. Every month we're releasing a new episode, and just so excited that you're going on this journey with us. If you would consider liking and subscribing and sharing this with others, maybe it's a host home, maybe it's a co-leader, someone that you're stepping up into leadership. Share this content with them. And remember, realliferesources.org, you're going to find all our information, our show notes, other tools that we talked about, leader trainings upcoming, all that stuff. But we want to thank you again for all that you do, the investment that you make in mentoring and discipleship in our church. Grateful for you. Thank you guys for being here today. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
We are grateful for the investment you make each week as you reach the world for Jesus, one person at a time, and make biblical disciples in relational environments. For notes from this show and other great resources to help you grow, visit realliferesources.org.